And welcome in to another episode of Off Script. My name is Zak Herbstreit. Ladies and gentlemen, college football fans around the country, we got a big one today because today I'll be giving my top 12 teams post-spring ball. And I just want to state this now. This is not based on potential. This is solely based on what I saw in spring. It has nothing to do with scheduling, how these teams are going to be. This is solely based on where these teams are at right now, where I think these teams are at right now. That's where this ranking is. I got to state that now, so when people see the chart and everything, they know what they're looking at. That's what it is. But before we get into it today, though, if you enjoy college football, if you enjoyed the channel, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel as well. It really helps me out a lot, so I appreciate you guys. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Starting off number 12, we got the USC Trojans. And this is probably the most intriguing team, in my opinion, throughout all of spring. I think there's an interesting storyline there. They got 9 guys on offense coming back, 8 guys on defense coming back, so 17 returning guys total. Probably the most in all of college football. But for me, looking at this team and watching them in spring, huge addition of Gary Patterson on the defense, which is going to – the ceiling of this defense for USC is completely raised. But also on offense, you have Jade Mayava coming back, King Miller, an incredible – receiver room as well. So for me, looking at this team, there's no excuses left. Really, there's not. You have all the resources that you need, talent, recruiting classes. You're out in Southern California. Weather is always nice. So what's kind of holding you back now? Lincoln Riley's kind of up against the wall a little bit. USC's being like, all right, like we got to get to a playoff. Like let's get going a little bit. So I think this year, and from what I saw in spring, that mindset has changed. You see it and you're like, okay, the mentality here, they're hungry. They're coming for something. So that's why I have them that high. They can run the ball, they can pass the ball, and that defense leveled up a little bit. So I'm excited for them this upcoming season. Moving on here, number 11, we have the BYU Cougars, and I feel like J.D. Pickell said this the best. This is probably the best team that no one's talking about, and I don't understand why. I mean, maybe just because they're all the way out in Provo, Utah, which, by the way, stay tuned for that because we're going to go there this summer. So that's an upcoming video to look forward to. But more on BYU this year, and from what I saw them from spring, top 10 in returning defensive talent. They're also returning Bear Bachmeier, who was freshman standout quarterback last year, and now this year leveled up even more. From what I've heard, he's even better than he was last year. Also have LJ Martin, who was a 1,000-yard rusher last year. And what I'm more excited about is the two-headed monster at tight end with Walker Lyons and Roger Salipaga. That's going to be really interesting to watch, and apparently they're just going downfield and snagging everything. Huge quarterback-friendly targets. But at the end of the day, this team was incredibly good last year. I feel like a lot of people are just discrediting them. They lost 2 games last year to the same team twice. Texas Tech, I should say. But not a lot of people were giving them their flowers. I mean, this was a solid team. And anything, Kalani Sitake and the whole team, they're hungry. The stuff that's going on at Texas Tech right now with Brendan Sorsby and is he going to play or not? Like, that's fuel. It's like, oh, well, we have an opportunity to win the Big 12. Like a really, really good opportunity to win the Big 12. So I'm really liking this BYU team this year. Let's go to 10. I got the LSU Tigers. And this is probably the most hyped up team all offseason, especially with that whole story of where's Lane Kiffin going to land? Is he going to Florida? Is he going to Penn State? And he ends up at LSU. So when he ends up at LSU, you know he's going to bring in some incredible transfer portal additions. And he gets Sam Leavitt from Arizona State. He gets Jordan Seaton from Colorado, both incredible college football players. So you don't really see too much of Leavitt in spring because of his injury. But Jordan Seaton, as advertised, going out there just dominating people. But in general, from what I've seen from LSU in the spring is there's a lot of people out there saying, well, Lane Kiffin's got to make the playoff. He's got to at least make it to a championship or something, which I feel like is way too much expectation on him. Like from where you all were last year, being 6-7 win team to where you're supposed to be now, I do think there's going to be a monumental improvement, and that's probably the biggest thing. I think there just needs to be promise that things will be better. I don't think he needs to make the playoff off rip year one. He could, by any means, make the playoff with that roster and the talent at the skill positions. That definitely could be a possibility, but I don't think it's like a make or break, definitely need to make the playoff right now. There's going to be, knowing Lane and what he did, his track record at Alabama and Ole Miss, and how, especially Ole Miss, and what he did at Ole Miss and build up that roster, bringing in Trinidad Chambliss, who was a zero-star D2 guy, and bringing him all the way to the playoffs. So the fact that he has that now at LSU with so much more resources, that's going to happen eventually, but I don't think it needs to happen year one. But I have him that high because I think there is the potential of being great, and from what I saw in spring, that roster is pretty solid. So that's where I have him there. But moving on to number 9 here, I got Texas A&M Aggies. And for me, this really boils down to Marcel Reed year 2. And I understand he's been there for 3 years, but I mean, year 2 starter. And from what I saw in spring, from practice clips, from interviews, from just reading about him, the level of play that he was playing last year, where he was sometimes sailing the ball, didn't get his feet set when he was throwing, to what I've seen in this spring, where he's very adamant in his footwork and throwing the ball just looks a lot better. And he still has Craver to throw to, and the addition of Isaiah Horton from Alabama still have incredible guys to throw the ball to. I just think the ceiling of Marcel Reed has been raised. Not to mention their top 15 in returning production, Mike Elko has put together a pretty solid roster. And the thing with me is this team was really solid throughout the entire regular season last year. I feel like people forget that. They just remember the last 2 games where they lost to Texas and they lost to Miami, and they're like, well, yeah, no, Texas A&M's going to Texas A&M. They're just going to lose when it matters. But I don't think that's the case this year. I think they finally kind of tasted that success a little bit, and they're like, okay, we want more of this. And they have the roster to do it. And seeing it in spring, especially at the skill positions, and the defense is going to be pretty solid as well. Mike Elko is going to get those guys right. I'm pretty confident about that. But just seeing that, that's why I got him this high, and I am confident and pretty optimistic about their chances in the college football playoff this upcoming season. At number 8, we have the Oklahoma Sooners. This is a team I got to say I'm pretty high on. I really am. Bringing back majority of the offense, plus key portal additions like Parker Livingstone and a couple guys on the O-line. And going into spring, there was 2 things that I wanted to see. First things first was just John Mateer improvements. And I felt like we saw that, especially in the pro day and throughout spring ball. Just the mechanics overall have gotten better. It's less of the sidearm stuff. It's more just over the top, getting the ball out faster. And the second thing was I wanted to see being able to run the ball. The offensive line willingly being able to run the ball. Because last year, that was a little bit of an Achilles heel for this Oklahoma team, not being able to run the ball consistently. They could do it here and there with Mateer, but you don't want Mateer being the guy to run the ball for you. You want, your running back to run the ball, obviously. So I feel like we have seen it in spring, too. That is probably the biggest thing that when I'm reading online and stuff, it's like, well, Oklahoma can run the ball now. And that, coupled with the passing game, coupled with Brent Venables' defense, what's not to love about this Oklahoma team? And J.D. Piquel brought this up. Their win total right now is 7.5, which, again, seems a little disrespectful. So I really am a big fan of this Oklahoma team. But moving on here to number 7, I have the Indiana Hoosiers. And I feel like 1 through 7 are pretty interchangeable. At least in the spring right now, I feel like the talent-wise, they're all pretty much even. They're like sometimes one will have a better day than the other, and sometimes one will have a worse day. So, it really depends on the mood of where you're at and being like, well, actually I like them higher than that. But more on Indiana here. Biggest additions are Nick Marsh from Michigan State and Josh Hoover from TCU. I'm still not incredibly sold on Josh Hoover. That's why I have him a little bit lower, just because of what Sonny Dykes said about the turnover issues, and is that going to carry over to Indiana? I don't know. But overall, I do know Kurt Cignetti is going to get this team right. Track record has proven that this Indiana team is going to be gritty, have a great defense, and run the ball really efficiently. So what's not to like about this Indiana team, really? In spring, that spring game, they looked really good. So I think they're going to reload for another year. But are they going to be as dominant? That remains to be seen. But still, they're a pretty solid program, and I do have faith on them going pretty deep in the college football playoff. But moving on here, number 6, I got the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Currently have a Heisman favorite at quarterback with C.J. Carr, who's looking great in spring, but also the additions of Mylan Graham, Ohio State transfers, and we all know how Ohio State receivers are in general, usually pan out pretty well. So expecting great things from them this upcoming season, but also looked great in spring. And also this defense, too, is looking great. That was one thing I was like, I don't know how the defense could look, but defense, especially that secondary, is looking really good in the spring. But the question I have for this Notre Dame team is, what's this running game going to look like? You lose Jeremiah Love, you lose Price, 2 first-round draft picks. So I understand the track record there also is Notre Dame usually just reloads at that position. And I have no doubt that probably will be the case this upcoming year. But that's kind of why they're a little bit further back on this list is I just don't know what the running game is going to look like. But still, I do have faith that this Notre Dame team will have a pretty incredible season this upcoming year. But moving on to number 5, I got the Georgia Bulldogs. I really like this team. I really do. And specifically, I really like Gunnar Stockton. I know a lot of people out there are skeptical on him, but I think this is a Gunnar Stockton revenge tour kind of season. A lot of slander out there about his name, just that he's not good enough to win a national championship, and also revenge tour for losing in the playoff to Ole Miss, a team that he beat last year as well. So kind of going to come for blood a little bit, if you will. You know, he's kind of out there to prove the doubters wrong. That's the mindset I'm feeling, and seeing that in spring too, and especially in the spring game, I'm like, all right, I like what I'm seeing. I really like what I'm seeing. But on the flip side here, talking about this defense, that was a little bit of kind of, I want to say, Achilles heel for this Georgia team, but also it wasn't to the standard of what a Kirby Smart defense usually looks like last year. So I do think this upcoming year, that's going to be changed. You have guys that are more veteran talent kind of guys and going to understand what's going on. Finally have games under their belts and be like, okay, like nothing's going to faze me anymore. I know how to play. I've been in this situation before, but really, really big fan of Georgia this upcoming season. And at number 4, we have the Texas Longhorns. This is a pretty interesting team in my opinion, because I think arguably you could say there's more hype around this team this year than there was last year. And last year there was a ton of hype because of Arch Manning finally taking over the reins from Quinn Ewers and getting called a Heisman, preseason Heisman, all that. Then he doesn't exceed expectations. They go 9-3, miss the playoff. All these Texas fans are like, what's going on? But the addition of Cam Coleman, you get Will Muschamp as a defensive coordinator. It's going to make those guys play with a little bit more passion, a little more juice. Plus, it seems like that offensive line issue has been solved a little bit more, so giving Arch a little more time. Also going to run the ball better consistently, which you want. So, in general, this Texas team, I think, is going to be night and day from where they were, especially if they can carry that momentum of that offense and how that offense was moving in that Cheez-It Bowl into this upcoming season. Watch out for this Texas team. That's all I got to say. But moving on to number 3, Miami Hurricanes. How can you not like Miami? To me, this is probably one of the most exciting rosters in all of college football. You got Darian Mensah. You got Mark Fletcher. You got Malachi Toney. All these studs, especially on the offensive side of the ball, but a little bit more on Mensah too. Like I said in a video last week, I wasn't sold on him. And then I see him in the spring game, just lighting it up, throwing 3 touchdowns, looking incredibly poised, and also just really just assimilating well in that offense. That's really what I saw from when I watched these practice clips. He looks like he's been there for a year, but he's already been there for a couple months. So that's really promising. But the question with me on this team is who's going to fill that void with Messidor and Ruben Bain? Because those are 2 first-round talent guys that are just gone off your defensive line. So how's that defensive line going to look? And I have no doubt it's still going to be incredibly solid, but that's just kind of my question there. It's like, I don't know. I'd love to see a little bit more. So that's really what, it's not an issue, but that's just kind of a question I had. But at the end of the day, I feel like this is a good mixture of offense and defense just on both sides of the ball. And this is a really talented team. And at number 2, we have the Ohio State Buckeyes. To me, this is probably the best team in all of college football. You have Jeremiah Smith. You have Julian Sane, Bo Jackson. To me, I think that offensive line in general has improved. They have taken a little bit more of a step forward compared to last year, because last year the short yard running game was not great, or just at least up to the standard of where it needs to be for Ohio State. And then also a little bit of the pass pro too, especially in the Miami game. It got exposed a little bit. So from what I saw in the spring, and I understand a lot of guys were out, so it's hard to get a grasp of what this offensive line is going to be. But from what I saw in the spring, they have taken a step forward, and I really am excited about this offensive line and this run game at Ohio State. But an interesting question here, too, is what's this defense going to look like? Obviously, I'm not too concerned because that was also the question last year with Matt Patricia coming in. It's like, well, how's he going to be? You know, you lost a lot of talent, and with like Cody Simon, all these guys leaving. But now you lose Caleb Downs, Sonny Styles, Aurel Reese, all these first-round talent guys. So what's this defense going to look like now? Is it that much of a change? Is it that much of a drop-off of talent? I don't think it will be, but that is an interesting question there, and that's a reason why they're not number 1 right now. But moving on to number 1, I got the Oregon Ducks. And this, to me, felt like the team that was the most complete to me on paper. You got new coordinators coming in, Dante Moore coming back, who everyone thought he was going to leave for the draft. Davison and Hill at running back, DeCorian Moore, Evan Stewart on the outside. You have Johnson at tight end, who's going to be on par with Sadiq, in my opinion. But also on the flip side, the defense is phenomenal. That defensive line was just wrecking the offense throughout the entire spring game. And all throughout spring, that defense has been ahead of this offense. So at the end of the day, really, what's not to love about this Oregon team? I think right now, this is probably my favorite to win the Big Ten. I think right now, playoff lock, probably. I mean, granted, it's a hard schedule, and like I said, we're not talking about schedules, but looking at this Oregon team and the depth they have at each position, it's hard not to put them at 1. It really is. And Dan Lanning as a head coach, knowing his mentality, his mindset, and how he plays football, I really like this Oregon team just in general. But college football fans, that'll do it for me. Let me know what you guys thought of my top 12. I want to hear your top 12 or just your top teams in general. I'd love to hear from you. Like I said, my name's Zak Herbstreit. This is Off Script. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video. I'll see you guys soon.